Welcome back to the channel. Well, we talk an awful lot on this channel about writing with typewriters and how best to use them for your creativity, but I've also been known to be a scribbler, a scratcher, a jotter, a sketcher with pens and paper, pencils. So we haven't really talked lately about what's going on with me and notebooks and tablets and paper and pens and pencils and all that. I thought it would be a good time to do an update on what's going on with this Office Supply Junky. Stay tuned. These are confessions of an Office Supply Junky. So, as you might remember from almost 2 years ago, I had a collaborative project with Ethan Moses of Cameradactyl Cameras, and we had come out with this handy desk. This was an acrylic plastic portable writing surface with storage for individual sheets of paper and a pen or pencil. And that was the result of a project that I had built for myself, which was the original handy desk. This was made of some laminate flooring, some pieces of wood in the middle, and some plastic on the other side. And this was basically, the idea was to use loose sheets of paper instead of bound into notebooks, have a storage compartment for the loose sheets of paper, and then have a hard surface for writing on the paper. And then I made a little cardboard slip cover just to keep the paper from falling out and to protect it while you're carrying it or whatever. So I really like the idea of using individual loose sheets of paper. The challenge being, of course, is how do you archive them afterwards? Well, one solution was I got this VeloFlex binder from Germany. I had to order it from overseas, and it worked okay with this size paper. These are a little bit pricey, however. I don't think they sell these in the States. I couldn't find a distributor locally here. So they're a little pricey. The other alternative or option is to 3-hole punch or some kind of hole punch binding system the paper after you've drawn and written on it and bind it in a more conventional notebook or binder. But the problem with that is now you have holes that you've punched that probably are going to interfere with your sketches or drawings or writings. In other words, you didn't originally punch the holes ahead of time, which you could have. I could have decided on a binding system that used holes, pre-punched the paper, and that would have been okay. The thing is, though, some of the stuff I do in here is like collage art, individual sheets of paper that are collage art, and I don't really want holes in the collage art, right? So in the meantime, I started noticing that I had some nice notebooks laying around the house that haven't been used. One of those was this Rhodia dot pad. This is a dot grid pad. Rhodia is a French paper company, and I really liked drawing on using fountain pen on this Rhodia pad. So I did that throughout 2024 into late 2024. I used up this Rhodia pad. And then I went down to my local Office Supply Junky store, which in my neighborhood was Pen and Pad, and I bought this Clairefontaine tablet. It's about the same size as the Rhodia, but they didn't have this in dot grid. They had it just in lined. But I went ahead and got the Clairefontaine, and I've been using this Clairefontaine since December of 2024, most notably with the Monteverde MP1 fountain pen that I got as a Christmas present, and I've really enjoyed this combination of the Clairefontaine paper with a Monteverde ink and pen. It works really well. But I'm in the process of using up this notebook. The Clairefontaine notebook is almost used up, and so I'm at the point where I have to decide what is going to be my next notebook system to write and or draw in. And I might mention that the problem with lined paper is it's sort of, at least for me, it encourages me more to do writing than sketching. Sure, I've done sketching and I've sketched ideas for things, but the lined paper sort of isn't as ideally suited for that as dot grid paper would be. I think dot grid paper is really the ideal compromise if you want to do both sketching, drawing, like technical sketching, not like fine art sketching, but that kind of line art sketching and or writing. because the dots seem to blend into the background when you're doing technical drawing, and of course they also function as lines as guidelines for writing by hand. So I like both the Rhodia and the Clairefontaine papers. The French make really good paper for fountain pens that are fountain pen friendly. Fountain pen friendly meaning, of course, that the ink, fountain pen ink, doesn't bleed in the paper, and it doesn't show through the back very easily, and it also takes the ink really well. The pen doesn't skip or whatever. So the French have a long history of being paper makers. In fact, the first documented manned flight were the Montgolfier brothers in France. They were paper makers. In 1783, they made a paper hot air balloon, and the first documented manned flight was with a paper hot air balloon made with French paper, and we can only assume that that paper would have been really good for fountain pens, except fountain pens weren't invented yet. So I had to decide, okay, maybe I need to make a trip down to my local Office Supply Junky fine paper store and decide on another notebook. But then I started looking around my shelves here in the office. And in my bookcase over here, I noticed that I had this pack of Moleskine Cahiers journal books. This is a 6-pack of Cahiers. And these weren't even unwrapped. They were still in their original plastic. And I decided, hey, I have all of this nice paper, or is it nice? I hadn't used these before. So maybe I could use them. But then the immediate thing I started thinking about was, there's a thing about Moleskine is that they make those pocket-sized books that are quite popular. But it is known in the fountain pen world that a lot of the Moleskine books, the paper isn't really ideally suited for fountain pen. The pen ink bleeds through the paper, feathers, and it's not really good. But there's also this kind of understanding. The word on the street is that if you find Moleskine books that are made in either Vietnam or India, the paper they use there has sizing on the surface of the paper, and it's more fountain pen friendly. So this 6-pack of Cahiers, I looked on the back, and hey, sure enough, it says made in Vietnam. And so I took one of these books out and tested it with fountain pen, and yeah, it looks like it takes fountain pen ink really well. But then as I began to handle the book and everything, I realized it's kind of a soft binder. It's maybe a little too flexible. If you had to use it, like if you're out maybe sitting on a bench somewhere and you don't have a table surface and you have to use your lap to write with, it might be a little too soft. And I know that there are some really nice leather binders with like elastic loops that you can put the Cahiers in, and it protects it and gives it a little more of a rigid surface to write with. But I went out yesterday. So Pen and Pad, it is a local pen and paper store. They are in the process of moving their retail location, so they're currently closed. So I went down to Penny Smith's Paper in the North Valley of Albuquerque, and they didn't have any leather binders for these Cahiers in this size. So then I came home and I decided, you know what, maybe I can make some kind of a binder for the Cahiers that I can use. And so I went out to my garage workbench, and I know that I had a whole pack of this chipboard cardboard. I had bought a pack of this from Michael's craft store a few years ago, and this stuff is really handy for making all kinds of cardboard projects. And one of the really good things to use with this cardboard, if you want to do a real quick and dirty kind of a craft project, is to use gaffer's tape. So what is gaffer's tape? Well, there is tape that purports to be gaffer's tape, but it's not real gaffer's tape. And what I mean by that is actual gaffer's tape used in the filmmaking industry is a cloth tape with a rubber-based adhesive, and it sticks really well to surfaces, but it also peels back off if you want it to. I have been using this brand called ProGaff. It is rather expensive. It's around $20 for a roll. You can get some tape online that purports to be gaffer's tape. It's much less expensive. It's not real gaffer's tape. It doesn't stick nearly as well. So what I did is I took these cahiers and I measured the size that I would need for a front and back cover. And then I made a little spine about 3/8 of an inch thick. I cut a little spine of cardboard. I'm doing all this on a cutting board with a razor knife. And so I didn't shoot a how-to video. It's kind of really basic, but I laid down a strip of this gaffer's tape with adhesive side up, and I put down the strip, the thin 3/8 inch strip of the spine, and then I took the two cover pieces that I had cut to size and I laid them down on either side of the spine with a little bit of like maybe a couple millimeters of gap between the two. And then I laid down another strip of gaffer's tape on top of that. I use a bone folding tool to score the, make sure the tape is securely in place, cut the excess off, and then I had this binder cover, and then I proceeded to build some flaps on either side to put the covers of the cahier in. And then, having said all that, I got some tape, some decorative washi tape, Japanese style washi tape, and this is the result of my little art project. So just to show you, let's see, this is the front. So what I've done here is I have these two pockets inside the cover, and this helps me to be able to remove the cahier if I need to. Well, I will need to eventually. By the way, this is the back cover of the back sheet that I had done the initial fountain pen testing, and it showed that it was a pretty good quality paper, this Vietnamese-made Moleskine paper. Okay, so you have the front and back flaps that hold the cahier in place. And then you still have the back flap of the cahier itself has its own little pocket for putting papers and stuff in. So I made the cover, this binder cover, a little bit, larger in size so that it'll fit in it nicely, but it looks okay. It'll hold itself together. You can see the black gaffer's tape right there, and I have the washi tape covering up all of the other gaffer's tape like the spine, so it just has more of a decorative appearance. But this is going to be my new book going forward when I finally finish this Clairefontaine book. And so, yeah, this is lined paper. It's not dot grade paper. But again, I have 6 of these, and it's just sitting here in my bookcase like having your own supply of office supply stationery that you're never using. And it kind of bugs me that I shouldn't have to go out and buy more nice writing paper and booklets if I have all this stuff sitting around the house, especially paper that's going to be fountain pen friendly, like this Made in Vietnam Moleskine paper. So then, what kind of pens am I using with this? Well, a few years ago, I was using the TWSBI Diamond 580 piston fill pen. This is one of my favorite pens. These are really great. They hold a lot of ink. They have a good nib. They write well. They have a nice size to them. But of course, I like new things. And then I was using the Pilot Plumix little inexpensive pen with a stub nib, and I liked it so well that I ended up getting the Pilot Metropolitan in the same stub nib. So I had been using this Pilot Metropolitan for probably close to a year, and lately, like last week, this was getting down, the cartridge was getting empty, and I was going to have to decide to refill it or not. When I was gifted this Scrivener Classic fountain pen, and you saw the video, I'll put a link down below to the video about this beautiful pen, but this is a medium point nib, a German nib, a Schmidt nib, so it puts out a little bit wider of a line. But when I did the testing, by the way, in the Moleskine, this is actually from that medium point nib, and it looks adequately thick thin enough for me to use because the quality of the paper works really well. So I have to decide what pens I'm going to use. I usually only like to have like 2 pens at any one time inked up. I also recently, in the last few months, like later, I don't remember if it was early 2025 or late 2024, but I got this TWSBI Go. This is their least expensive piston fill pen, and the big feature with it is it has this spring-loaded plunger that you can dip the nib in a bottle of ink, push the plunger down like this, and then release it, and it'll draw the ink up into the bottle. It was a pretty good little inexpensive pen. The only thing that I found fiddly about it is this flared part at the back of the grip section is kind of where you hold the body of the pen with when you do the little syringe action. And it's not really that long between that and the nib itself. And so you have to get your fingers way down in the bottle of ink if the bottle isn't completely full, and you might get ink on your hand. So it ends up being not quite as convenient to refill as a piston filler like the Diamond 580, where you turn the back knob and it's much taller and you have less of a chance of getting ink on your hands. That was the only downside I had to the TWSBI Go, but other than that, it's a cute little pen. It's an inexpensive, nice kind of a pocket pen. But I decided that, so I'm still using the Monteverde MP1 right here. It's actually needing to be refilled here pretty soon. You might be able to see that the piston fill section is getting low on ink. And I think I'm going to continue using this pen. I like the nib. I like the way it writes. I like even that color of ink. And so I'm going to be probably using the Monteverde MP1 and the Scrivener Classic as my 2 pens going forward. The Scrivener having a medium point, and this Kaye is more of a, what you might call a college ruled ruling. It's actually finer rulings than on the Clairefontaine notebook here. So that means, well, if I'm using the medium point nib with this Kaye, it might be a little bit more of a challenge with a wider line weight and shorter letters, but it's going to be fun. I enjoy that challenge. But I'm also hoping that I'll be able to take this slightly larger size paper and use it for sketching as well as writing. So going forward, this will be my new sketching book and writing book. And I hope that'll work out pretty well. And I have, of course, 5 other Kayes in this pack. Although, to be honest with you, I like to change things up. I don't like to be bored with the same thing all the time. So I could easily see myself, after using this, to go back to maybe a dot grid tablet from either Rhodia or Clairefontaine or whatever. Well, anyways, that was kind of a quick and brief update to what I've been doing with my Office Supply Junky, handwriting, sketching, journaling kind of stuff. I also journal not just with pens on paper, but I also do what I call a typewriter journal, which is anytime I take a typewriter, a piece of paper, and I write something for myself. If it's not going to be a letter for somebody, if it's not going to be posted on a blog or whatever, I call that my typewritten journal. I have a notebook full of those, a binder full of those. So even test typings, if I'm troubleshooting a typewriter and doing like adjustments to it, I'll sometimes document the adjustments as I'm doing them, and then that I will save as in my typewritten journal. It's all kind of a idea of documenting your life with both typewriters and paper and pen or pencil. One other, I guess I should go to this update. I forgot to mention. I was in the market for a electric pencil sharpener. I mean, I do have manual ones, but I wanted the convenience of an electric pencil sharpener that could sit on my desk, and I didn't want a battery-powered pencil sharpener because I know those things get weak, get low on batteries, and then the idea of putting a pencil in and going, yeah, so I got this AFMAT. This is just a brand off of Amazon, inexpensive brand, and it's powered by a AC adapter right here, and it's a pretty decent little pencil sharpener. It has a large capacity, and it has this control dial where you can make the point either longer or a little more blunt. So it's sort of like the angle of the point of the pencil you can adjust. And this will accept pencils anywhere from 6 to 12 millimeters in diameter. Well, let's do a pencil sharpening test. So these are the Pen Plus Gear pencils that you can find at Walmart, and these are actually made in India. India makes some pretty good wood case pencils. So let's get one of these out of here. And that is a nice sharp point. This pencil sharpener sharpens pencils very quickly and accurately. So it's been a fun little pencil sharpener. I'd recommend getting one of these. I think the only downside I would say is when I ordered this, I ordered kind of a light green color is what I selected, and they shipped me the black one. And I was thinking I would return it, but then I said, it's okay, it's black. So you may or may not get the color you want if you order one of these, but AFMAT little pencil sharpener off of Amazon, I like it. It is a little big, but I like the top loading. I like the quick electric action, and I like having it over on the side of my table here that anytime I need to quickly sharpen a pencil, I can do so. And that reminds me, another little thing we'll look at is I have a whole box of these pencil protectors. These are like brass pencil protectors. So it has a little split in it. And the idea is it'll fit a hexagonal pencil, and it kind of protects the tip of it. But I also use it on the ends of these pencils that don't have erasers. It's kind of a nice holder for the stubbier pencils, like as they get down in length as you're using it more and more. It's kind of nice to have these. Okay, well, that is kind of the update on my Office Supply Junky stuff right now. So I hope this was interesting to you. And I know there's a number of you out there that are Office Supply Junkies. And so I welcome you to drop some comments down below and talk about what is your current writing setup? What kind of notebooks, paper, pens, or pencils are you using? And I'd love to talk to you more about Office Supply Junky. But in the meantime, whatever you're doing, documenting your life in sketching, drawing, writing, however you like to do it, stay creative and have yourselves a great day. And bye-bye for now.